Hi guys, my name is Imran, and I'm going to talk about one of the most hot topics today, which is GST. Everybody is talking about GST, and at some point, even I had no idea about what this is, and like everyone, even I was worried as to what's going to happen with the prices of different products since the taxes might increase. I mean, I've heard in news that there were queues, in different shops to buy groceries because people would think and wonder that from tomorrow the price is going to increase. So I just went ahead and gathered some information about what is GST and how it's going to benefit us, etc. And I would like to share that with you guys. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so GST is basically stands for Goods and Services Tax. It has been launched today on the 1st of July and it is set to revolutionize the way we do our taxes. But what is GST and how will it reform the current tax structure? And you must be wondering, why do we need such a huge overall in its taxation policy? So, to understand that, we need to understand three stages of tax collection according to the new GST system. First is the multi-stage tax, second is value-added tax, and third is destination-based tax. So, what is multi-stage tax? Let's talk about how a product reaches us. So, the product reaches us involves different stages. First is buying of the raw material. Second stage is production or manufacturing. And then there's warehousing of the material. And then comes the sale of the product to the retailer. And in the final stage, the retailer sells you the product, which is the end consumer, completing its life cycle. So, goods and services tax, which is GST, will be levied on each of these stages, which makes it a multi-stage tax. So, as you can see, this process, okay, buying raw material, manufacturer, sale to wholesaler, then it's retailer buys it from wholesaler, then consumer buys it from retailer. So the taxes are going to be charged at each of these stages. So the person who buys raw material will have to pay the tax, and manufacturer and wholesaler and retailer, and finally us. So that's what is meant by multi-stage tax. Okay, the second one is the value-added tax. So let's assume that a manufacturer wants to make a shirt, okay, and for this he must buy yarn, and which means that the value of the yarn is increased when it is woven into a shirt. And then the manufacturer sells it to the warehousing agent who attaches label and tags it to each shirt. And that is another addition of value. After this, the warehouse sells it to the retailer who packages each shirt separately, invests in the marketing of the shirt, and thus increasing the value of this again. So GST will be levied on these values addition too, because the monetary worth is added at each stage to achieve the final sale to the end customer. So as you can see in this picture that the value of the product is increased at each stage, and hence the tax will be charged at each stage. Uh, okay. Now the last one is the destination based tax. So the GST will now be levied at every point of sale based on its destination as well. Assume that the entire manufacture process is happening in Rajasthan and the final point of sale is in Karnataka. Since GST is levied at the point of consumption, so the state of Rajasthan will get the revenue in manufacturing and warehousing stages but lose out on the revenue when the product moves out of Rajasthan and reaches the end consumer in Karnataka. This means that Karnataka will earn that revenue on final sale because it is a destination based tax, and this revenue will be collected at final point of sale destination, which is in Karnataka. Now I know that it sounds a bit confusing, however, in simple words, that the taxes will be charged at every point of sale based on its destination. Okay, now since we've understood these three stages and how the taxes are going to be charged, what will be the new tax structure, you also would be wondering as to how it's going to be important for us, what's going to be benefit for common man. Okay, so just to explain that, earlier, because the shopkeeper had to pay the tax when he bought the item from wholesaler, To recover that amount, he used to pass the liability to the customers, who has to pay the additional amount in form of tax. So in effect, customer had to pay the price of the item plus tax. Okay, now because shopkeeper did not have any other way to recover whatever tax he had paid to the wholesaler from his own pocket, he had no choice but to pass on this liability to the customer. So we common man used to get affected because of that. We had to pay that extra tax. And the benefit of GST is that GST is going to take care of this problem now. GST will address this issue because it has a system of input tax credit, which will allow the sellers to claim the tax already paid, so that the final liability on the end consumer, which is us, is decreased. So I'll explain that to you how that works and what is the meaning of that. Uh, so let's take this example. So a person who buys the raw material, the cost of the product, let's say, is 100 rupees. He has to pay 10% of tax. Okay. Uh, so the cost of the product becomes 110 rupees. Now, then the manufacturer buys it from that person, and he has to manufacture, he has to package the item, etc. So he charges another 40 rupees. So the total cost of the product becomes 140, but he also has to pay the 14% of tax. Sorry, 10% of tax. So he has to pay 14 rupees of tax, so the cost of the product becomes 154. And then so on is again goes to the retailer, and he has to pay another 10% tax. So to sum it up, at each stages they had to pay 10% of tax. Okay, but actually the person who buys it from the first person should only pay, for example, at this stage, only 4 rupees or 3 rupees, but they were paying like 17 rupees, so they were paying extra because that tax was already paid by the previous person. Why do you have to pay the tax again? So to resolve that now, GST has come up with something called input tax credit, which means whatever extra tax you have paid, you can claim that. Okay, so that's going to be the benefit. So in the end, every time an individual was able to claim input tax credit, the sale price for him reduced and the cost price of the person buying his products reduced because of the lower tax liability. So for example, the final value of the shirt therefore will be reduced from 214 rupees to 187 rupees. So there will be less tax burden on the consumers because they'll be able to claim that extra tax that they have paid. And that term is called input tax credit, which is going to be taken care by GST. Okay, so just a small few things about how it's going to be the benefit of GST on Indian economy. So it will help a country's businessman gain a level playing field. It will put us on par with foreign nations who have a more structured tax system. It will also translate into gains for the end consumers, so we don't have to pay the cascading taxes anymore. And there will now be single tax on goods and services. Okay. Um, Now, what what will be higher and what will be cheaper? Okay, so the GST Council has made four primary tax slabs for various items. The first slab is the low rate of 5% tax. Second one is the standard rate of 12% tax. The third one is 18%, and the last one is high rate of 28%. So these are the four tax percentage slabs have been designed by the GST Council. Some of these products had higher effective tax rates before GST implementation, but the new tax policy will lessen the burden on consumers. Meanwhile, there will be some products which will now be taxed at a higher rate, thereby increasing their prices. What I liked about what's been done with GST is that the government has kept essential items of daily use tax free. If you can see these items like salt, eggs, milk, buttermilk, natural honey, fresh fruits, etc. These have become tax free, which is really great. Okay, so you can probably pause the video and just go through these items if you want to see which are the tax free items by the government under GST. Okay, so they've made like two slabs. These are the cheaper slabs, which is basically the products used by people who have a below average economy, okay, or revenue. And the second one is the costly items like shampoo, deodorants, etc. So there will be less tax levied on the cheaper products, and there will be more tax on costlier products. Okay, now, um, so there's a really lovely picture which explains specifically about how the taxes will be levied on each of the items. For example, you can see cement, which was charged at 29% of tax, has now been reduced by 1%. Steel has gone higher by 8%. Mobile phone, from 6% it's gone to 12% of tax, so it's increased by 6%. No, and you can see television is increased by 2%, and there's computer and laptop increased by 12%, which is quite high, which means like an Apple laptop, which used to cost around 55, 56,000, now it's going to be increased to 64,000, like 7,000 increase. So it looks like for government, items like mobile phones, laptops, computers, televisions are still like luxuries. But to me, I feel that mobiles are still a product of a basic need than a luxury. Yes, if you buy a high-end phones like Apple phone, definitely will be a luxury, but mobile phones, like a basic mobile phone, a smartphone, definitely is a necessity, not a luxury. Okay, so I feel that after a few days, probably prices will be neutralized. But if you go and check out the prices at different stores, the prices have increased on the electronic items. Although the prices of butter, sugar, tea, coffee has been decreased because there's going to be a decrease in the tax percentage as per GST. Coffee, interestingly, is decreased by minus 24%, like from 29% of tax is reduced to 5%, so which is brilliant. You can have coffee all the time. And then this clothing, this is interesting. Clothing, for clothes which are below 1,000 of price point, will be tax will be charged at 5%, so reduced by minus 2.5%. But above 1,000 will be increased by 4.5% tax. So people, who are probably uh, below the average economy or earning capacity will be able to benefit with this, especially the jeans and all, which are cost around 1.5 to 1,000 rupees. Definitely is going to be impacted with that. Okay, so that's pretty much to sum it up. I feel that the decision that's been taken for GST is a really good decision by the government for two reasons mainly. Is because the items of common day and daily use, which are not a luxury but of basic needs, like your daily items, sugar, tea, etc., the prices have been reduced, which is a good step. Which Because you're not going to be buying the electronic items every day. It's going to be just once probably in a year or two. So even if that increases, that should not have much effect on a daily consumption. But yes, as I can see that there's a new system they've come up with called input tax credit. So we will now be able to claim the extra tax that we have paid uh, to to the government, because the way the tax structure was designed earlier, which was not really appropriate. So it's more structured now, and it mainly points towards the benefit of the common man and the consumers. So I think it's pretty good. The GST is pretty good. So leave out any comment, any questions you guys have. Try my best to explain this to you. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video. Okay, take care. Bye bye.